the only podcast you want and the only podcast you need. I'm here with predictions heading into wrestling's biggest weekend of the year. WrestleMania 34 happens this Sunday. You've got NXT Takeover tomorrow night. You've got a Ring of Honor show. You've got several independent promotions all congregating in New Orleans. If you're a wrestling fan, this is essentially your Christmas. And it's really what you wait for all year round. Today, I'm filming this on Friday. I'm trying to film this quickly as I'm planning ahead. The Hall of Fame is tonight. Probably check that when I'm home later on. And by the time I post this up, it'll probably be Saturday, hoping to get this up obviously before the NXT show. So you'll believe that all my predictions, which will come true, were made before the show. So anyway, let's run down both cards. NXT Takeover, like for some people, Takeover is WrestleMania. I mean, if you're a wrestling purist, this is usually, the show that caters to you. It's really for like those fans who grew up with, the Hulk Hogan era of wrestling, and we grew up wanting, I guess, a more serious product. NXT really is, I think, a product that caters to that audience. Having gone to live NXT shows in the past, the demographic tends to be less kids that you see at a WWE show, and really caters to that 18 to 34 type demographic. So first match, the tag team match. So the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Finals happened on this past weekend's NXT, and the Undisputed Era interrupted the match, resulting in a no contest. So now we've got a triple threat for the NXT Tag Team Championships between the Authors of Pain, Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne, and the Undisputed Era team made up of Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, given the unfortunate injury to Bobby Fish. My prediction for this, I'm actually going for the Undisputed Era. I'm hoping that Bobby Fish is back in action relatively soon. I can't recall the details of how long he's planning to be out for. However, I'm hoping they do keep the belts on the Undisputed Era. Would like to continue to see them being put over Strong, no pun intended, to Roderick Strong, and then see where they go from there. I'm not a fan of makeshift teams, even though the team of Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong is a pretty interesting combination. And Authors of Pain, I see those guys getting called up to the main roster, momentarily. So I don't think it makes sense to do the switch at this point. The women's side, you've got the NXT Women's Championship, which is being contested between the champion Ember Moon and the challenger Shayna Baszler. At this point, I think they should just keep the championship on Ember Moon. I don't see any reason to have her drop the title. I almost see that they'd be mirroring an underdog story that they're doing with the Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa feud. So I do think they should just proceed to keep the title on Ember Moon, and just continue to put strong challengers in front of her. I don't want to like the idea of having her chase the title at this point. I think they've done a lot to build her credibility as a champion post the Oscar era in the promotion. So I see no reason for them to take that away from her at the moment. Next, we've got the feud that everyone's waiting for. At least this has been something I've been anticipating for quite a while. Tommaso Ciampa wrestling Johnny Gargano, and I was a huge DIY fan, and ever since they had that match a couple summers ago in the inaugural Cruiserweight Championship tournament, I think it was inevitable for these guys to feud against one another. They just put on such an amazing match, and Ciampa just showed just so much aggression towards Gargano. It just, to me, it was just a matter of time before we saw them break up and have this feud. And when it happened, it was like, pretty heartbreaking, but it's all been building to this match. I am, thinking that Gargano is attempting to win his way back into a job, having lost the match to Almas a few weeks back that Ciampa cost him and essentially cost him his spot in NXT. So I feel Gargano is going to win this match. and be built up to once again be the #1 contender to the NXT Championship. I just see, Gargano has that future of being the NXT champion, and it's going to be a tremendous match. I just, it's a toss-up as to what's going to be the match of the night between all these matches. So I'm going to, I think, like, my heart's definitely behind Gargano, and I do think that he's who they're going to put over tomorrow night. Next is the contest to decide the inaugural North American champion. So NXT introducing a secondary title, and they really needed their the depth of their roster is just incredible right now. And it's a match between the Velveteen Dream, Lars Sullivan, Killian Dane, the debuting EC3, the debuting Ricochet, and let's not forget about this one. I think, again, a toss-up. I mean, I could see any of these guys coming, getting put over. I think I'll just go out on a limb and think they're going to put the title on. And you can see I'm actually still trying to figure it out as I'm talking here. But I'm going to think that, if I had to narrow it down, I think definitely EC3 and Ricochet, the debuting guys. It's hard to believe that one of these guys is going to lose their debut match. That being said, I'll go with EC3. I mean, I can actually see them putting on Ricochet as well. I mean, Adam Cole is a strong contender. I mean, I can make a case for all these guys. But if I have to pick, I just do think they want to make EC3 seem to, just be a really big deal. Even the way he was, came across in that initial interview segment that he did on the show a couple weeks ago. Being presented as a larger-than-life star, and I do think that this guy is being positioned for a spot on the main roster in a big way, and hopefully, they don't do with him what they've done with Bobby Roode, where it just seems that Bobby Roode is just diluted from what he was on the NXT brand. So, my prediction will be EC3. And finally, the NXT Championship match between the champion Andreas Cien Almas facing off against the challenger Aleister Black. This, again, I think is a match where, again, you can make a case for both guys. However, based on my prediction in the Gargano Ciampa match, I really do think they're saying Gargano up for a rematch. I mean, I think that's the way they should go. So I am going to go with Almas to win this match, just based on that reason alone. I'm not even going to make any other arguments for it. I just feel that, the whole story with Gargano, I think eventually, is to have this guy win the championship. I mean, they could do the story where he's constantly chasing it and maybe never to win it. Although, just the reaction from fans when he finally does win that belt, I think would just be amazing. Even if he holds it for a night, I think there's got to be a payoff. And at least I'm hoping there's a payoff. So I'm going with Almas for the win just based on that. Now moving to the main card, WrestleMania 34. So Sunday night, where I guess we expect to see about 7 hours of wrestling. Every year this thing seems to get longer and longer. I think eventually they need to break it up into a couple of days. So anyway, start with the pre-show, or at least what I'm anticipating will be on the pre-show. On the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I'm not even sure of who's participating in this, and we keep hearing about how this thing is a big deal, but you look at the past winners, and Big Show, Cesaro, Baron Corbin, and even last year's winner Mojo Rawley, and none of them have really gone on to do anything that important. I mean, Mojo's done absolutely nothing. It was a guy who was a runner-up, Jinder Mahal, who ended up winning the WWE heavyweight title. So I really don't know who's going to win this. I mean, we've heard a number of people claim, like Matt Hardy, the Revival. I think Ty Dillinger is in it. I'm gonna, I'm rooting for someone like a Ty Dillinger to win it. So I'll make that my pick. Whether or not it actually happens remains to be seen. I don't necessarily expect it to happen, but since I don't have necessarily an educated guess as to who's going to win, I'll go with that. Next, it's the Women's Battle Royal. I'm actually anticipating this more than the Andre the Giant one, only because this whole thing between Bayley and Sasha Banks, and finally seeing a heel turn out of one of them, or them build up to a feud. Just remembering the matches they had in NXT, and Bayley's largely You know, been hurt since her move to the main roster. I mean, she's not as over as she once was. You know, you hear fans booing her. I don't necessarily think that they should turn her heel. I just don't know if that's the direction they go. I actually would love to see them make Sasha Banks the heel. I think she just plays a heel so well, just based on her past doing that in NXT. I don't see either of them winning, but I do see, like, obviously they're going to continue to tease that feud. In terms of winners, I really, again, like, it's hard to predict. But, you know, I mean, the one woman that just seems to have been overlooked over the last several months is Becky Lynch. So I see no one else that they could really put over in the match. So I'll go with Becky Lynch. And hopefully this gives her a momentum to get her back into that title picture. Next is the Cruiserweight Championship match between Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali. For this match, I mean, both guys, I think are going to put on an incredible match. You know, you can make a case for either guy winning. I don't think there's an obvious pick here. You know, and once looked like, you know, Cedric would be the clear winner here, but you know, Ali's been pushed decently as well. So, you know, based on that, I'm going to go with Ali. I just think he needs to win a bit more than Cedric does, and I think that it'll help him out quite a bit, and just continue to help establish him with the 205 audience. Next is the Tag Team Championship match between The Bar taking on Braun Strowman and the mystery partner. You know, big question is, who is this mystery partner? Like, is it the Big Show? Is it going to be Rey Mysterio? You know, do we see, you know, the return of Samoa Joe? So I honestly don't think they put someone currently on the roster in this spot, because then what's the point of making it a mystery partner? Like, even Samoa Joe, it's not like he's been off television for that long. And I think it almost builds fans' anticipation up needlessly to just have it be someone who's currently just on the roster, and they could have just announced being in the match from the start. I do have a feeling, just based on the precedent they set last year with the Tag Team Championship match and having the Hardys come back, that it would be, you know, the match wouldn't be able to recover if this ended up being a disappointment. I'm going to go out on a limb and predict it's Rey Mysterio. My gut tells me it's likely going to be Big Show, just based on the history between him and Strowman. Going on a limb and predict Mysterio. For all we know, it could even be Mark Henry. There's no telling what direction WWE may go here. Over on the SmackDown side of things, there's a triple threat to decide the Tag Team Championship. So you've got the champions, the Usos, defending against the New Day and the Bludgeon Brothers, which you know, got involved in this feud at Fastlane, basically destroying both teams. As much as I'd like to see the Usos defend successfully here, I think that they're going to continue to build the Bludgeon Brothers. So they're my prediction to win this match and just continue to dominate the tag team roster. Next, for the United States four-way match, United States Championship four-way match between the champion Randy Orton, Bobby Roode, Jinder Mahal, and Rusev. I honestly think they need to put the title on Rusev here. Rumor has it the whole reason Rusev was even put into the match is because he had asked for his release. Just unhappy with his current status in the company. And why wouldn't he? I mean, the guy has managed to take every scenario that WWE has thrown at him and put him in. You know, you had him come in as a dominant heel. He lost his undefeated streak to John Cena at WrestleMania 31. Ended up losing Lana in a stupid feud with Dolph Ziggler. You know, they put him in the League of Nations. You know, and then he ended up trying to come back from that. You know, the teamed him up with Aiden English, who, you know, many people thought would go nowhere, but they've actually turned this thing into like one of the most over acts in the whole promotion. I mean, even in all of wrestling, with Rusev chants happening in Ring of Honor shows. So I'll predict Rusev if the company is smart. On the Raw side of things, The Miz defending his Intercontinental Championship against Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. I have a feeling The Miz is probably looking to take some time off, given the recent birth of his daughter. And then you've got Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. If I had to pick between the two of them, I'd like to see Finn Balor win the match. I do have doubts still of what the WWE plans to do with Finn, whether or not they're fully backing him. I mean, he debuted on the main roster, seemed to have a tremendous push, defeated Roman Reigns on his way to becoming the first Universal Championship when he beat Seth Rollins for the title to decide that championship at SummerSlam that year. Then unfortunately got injured, which derailed his momentum. Although I would like to see him get back on track, and I do think he could do some really great things with the Intercontinental title. So going with Finn Balor for the win. For the Raw Women's title, you've got Alexa Bliss defending her championship against Nia Jax. I think this is going to be a squash. I think Nia is likely going to annihilate Alexa, and see this being like a quick match. You know, given the size of this card, some of these matches are going to have to get cut down in terms of time. So they can have the match listed on the billing. Funny enough, Undertaker Cena still not advertised, but have this match basically end in a squash, and then be done with it and see where the Raw Women's division goes from here. On the SmackDown side of things, where things get a little bit more interesting, you've got Asuka coming over to challenge Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. My prediction here is I bet Carmella cashes in, almost mirroring what Seth Rollins did a few years back at WrestleMania 31, and cashing in and defeating Charlotte. And I think the WWE can justify that Asuka retains her streak as a result of never being defeated. But I do think that they're eventually building to this cash-in, and I don't think they're necessarily ready to put the title on Asuka yet. I think they want to continue to build towards that, and maybe have Asuka eventually defeat Carmella heading into the summer. Also on the SmackDown side, you've got the in-ring return of Daniel Bryan teaming with Shane McMahon to fight Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. It's great that this worked out the way that it did, because for all these months we thought they were building this feud, and it's all a tease, because I don't think any of us necessarily expected Daniel Bryan to get cleared. I know it was something we all hoped for, but I'll be honest, the closer we got to WrestleMania, the more unlikely it seemed. But then, all of a sudden, I just remember being at work and seeing that tweet that Daniel Bryan has been cleared to wrestle. So good to see it pay off. Some people predicting a Shane McMahon heel turn here. I honestly see no reason to do that. It just wouldn't make sense. Given all the history between him and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, the fact that he almost tried to kill him a few weeks back. And I don't think Bryan's going to lose his first match back. And I do believe that Owens and Zayn are fighting for their chance to get their jobs back. However, who knows? They could lose this match and end up on the Raw brand. These loser leave town, loser leave SmackDown type stipulations never really stick. So I'll go with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon. The only way I could see Owens and Zayn winning is obviously with some chicanery. But I'm hoping that Bryan gets the win. Given they're back in New Orleans, it would just really be great to I think it would be fitting, given this is the site of him winning the title back at WrestleMania 30, just to see him get put over in his first match back. On the Raw side, we got a tag team match as well with Ronda Rousey, as Kurt Angle called her on Raw, teaming with Kurt Angle by Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. I think this, it's Ronda Rousey's first match in the company. No way she's losing. So she's winning, and clearly will be humiliating Stephanie in the process. I think the match will come down to her submitting Stephanie. We'll see Angle and Triple H. I do think that they'll have to rely pretty heavily on Triple H in this match. I have doubts on Angle's ability to perform, just based on his performance at the Survivor Series, and given his the performance when he took over Roman Reigns' place in the Shield at No Mercy. I you know, it remains to be seen, like, what Angle will do in the match. I think the fact that they're in a tag team match, they can hide any limitations of any of these guys, any of these competitors. We'll see what Ronda's capable of. I mean, she may surprise us and actually, you know, be a pretty solid worker right out of the gate. No different than if you remember when Ken Shamrock debuted with the company and, you know, really seemed to take to the WWE style pretty quickly. Then moving on to the heavyweight title matches. So you got AJ Styles defending the WWE heavyweight title against Shinsuke Nakamura. Now when these guys debuted back in 2016, this is the match that I wanted to see. This was the reason I was excited to see both guys get signed at the same time. And if you would have told me in 2016 watching Wrestle Kingdom that this would be, you know, the main event for WrestleMania. I mean, you know, whether or not it's actually the main event is debatable, just given the fact that I don't think it'll be the last match on the show. But this is my main event. This is the match I'm most anticipating. That being said, as happened in 2016, I think Nakamura wins. I think he needs to win more than AJ at this point, just because, I mean, AJ's solidified himself as being, you know, a credible champion. You know, he clearly is a WWE guy at this point. He's not the guy trying to make it in the WWE. You know, he's got wins over Cena, you know, wins over like pretty much the entire, like, majority of the top stars on the roster. He's had, you know, his championship reigns have been pretty dominant. He even had a really strong match against Brock Lesnar. It could turn out to be Brock Lesnar's last great match in the WWE. So I'll say Nakamura wins. And then, you know, there is rumor that AJ moves over to Raw. So I think that would lend itself well to the fact that Nakamura wins, and then we eventually see AJ move as a result of roster shakeup in the upcoming weeks. On the Raw side of things, the main event between Roman Reigns challenging Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. Now, given all the news that Brock is essentially done with WWE and heading back to UFC, you know, I think this is a pretty obvious choice to see Roman win. Now, we know, like, WWE likes to swerve the fans, so, you know, it'll be interesting to see what actually happens on Sunday. But I have no doubt Roman comes out with the belt. And, you know, this is a rematch of the WrestleMania 31 match where Seth Rollins cashed in Money in the Bank contract to take the title home, which was, you know, just awesome to see that. And it was actually heading into that event that Lesnar had re-signed with the company over the UFC. That doesn't seem to be the case this time. So Brock is dropping that title. And, you know, it's funny, like, as we headed to WrestleMania 31, I remember being disappointed at the possibility of Brock leaving, just because I actually enjoyed him being the champion at that point. I thought he really stands out from the rest of the roster, you know, seems to be a really dominant champion. However, like, you know, in this last reign, like, so since he defeated Goldberg for the belt, I have never once believed that his title reign has been at risk. There's not been any doubt in my mind that he was getting to WrestleMania and getting challenged by Roman for the title. And that was pretty much seemed to be an established fact when he won the title last year. So, you know, and some of the ways they're using to build up Roman, just based on the fact he's accusing Brock of being a part-time guy, I actually think that resonates. It is starting to resonate with me. Not, I mean, I have respect for Roman. He's not my, you know, I'm not necessarily on the bandwagon, but, you know, what he's saying is true. You know, it would be nice to see the championship defended more than once every, you know, whatever it is, 4 months or so. It would be great to see the champion actually appear at live events more. I mean, Brock's been doing that, but I mean, largely in, like, you know, 2-minute squashes or 35-second squashes. Now, I mean, you know, the risk with that as well is that the belt feels diluted again as it as in the past. You know, I do like the idea of the champion kind of stands on his own and you know, feels that there's a bit of a gap to get to Lesnar. However, the gap seems a bit too wide where, you know, right now there just doesn't seem to be any believability in the fact that Lesnar can drop this belt. Which is, you know, kind of unfortunate, but I think it's just the nature of Brock's contract and his limited set of appearances. So, you know, I can honestly say I'm not going to be disappointed to see Roman win the belt. And, maybe see them build up someone like a Samoa Joe, and maybe an AJ Styles when he comes over, or if he comes over as the next credible challenger. Now, last but certainly not least is this John Cena versus The Undertaker. I mean, they haven't announced a match on Raw. A rumor has it they might not even have a match at this point. It might just be a confrontation that could potentially build to a match at WrestleMania 35. I'd say I'd be disappointed with that, but at the same time, I mean, the fact that there's been no real build for a match, outside of Cena coming out week after week challenging The Undertaker to no response, I don't even necessarily think that's the way I want to see this match happen as well. My prediction is they don't have a match, and they actually have some sort of confrontation, which builds to them setting up a match at next year's WrestleMania. But, again, that feels pretty disappointing as well. In the event they did have a match, I'd say Undertaker wins just to get back his loss at the last New Orleans WrestleMania to Brock Lesnar. And I think it would be a fitting way to see him potentially end his career. I think it would have been fitting to see him get his win back in New Orleans. But, who knows what the stature is with the status is with The Undertaker at this point. Like, has he had hip replacement surgery? If he's had the surgery, is he able to even work a match? I think the fact that they haven't formally announced a match is telling, in the fact that don't expect a match, and this is likely just to be a confrontation, but we'll wait to see what happens. If there is a match, I'll go with Undertaker to win. And there you have it. That's my predictions for both NXT Takeover and WrestleMania 34. It should be an interesting weekend. Really looking forward to it. So hope you end up enjoying the shows. And if you're there in New Orleans, get ready for what's expected to be a long night. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.